Welcome to Marnie's Story Time.
Hello and welcome to Marnie's Story Time. Today I'm going to read an old story. Some of you might know who this little bear might be. And this is Paddington Bear. And Paddington Bear was written by Michael Bond and Fred Barnaby. And this is a story from England. And this particular book was written and given to somebody in 1976. So this is a very old book, so the pictures aren't very bright. So I'm going to read you the story and I'll try and show you some of the pictures. And if not, I might take a few photographs and put them on the end so you can see what the illustrations look like. So let's have a read. This is a longer story, so make yourself comfortable. One day, Mr. and Mrs. Brown were standing in Paddington Station. They were waiting for their daughter Judy, who was coming home from school. Suddenly, Mr. Brown noticed something small and furry behind a pile of mail bags. "Look over there," he said to Mrs. Brown. "I'm sure I saw a bear." There they are at the station. Here's our bear. "A bear?" said Mrs. Brown. "On Paddington Station? Don't be silly, Henry. There can't be." But there was, and it had a funny kind of hat, and it was sitting by itself on an old suitcase near the Lost Property Office. Good old Paddington. It's got a tag around his neck. As they went nearer, the bear stood up and politely raised his hat. "Good afternoon," he said in a small, clear voice. "Can I help you?" "We were wondering if we could help you," said Mrs. Brown. "Wherever have you come from?" And the bear looked round carefully before replying. "Darkest Peru. I stowed away and I have lived on marmalade." Mrs. Brown spied a label round his neck, and it simply read, "Please look after this bear. Thank you, Aunt Lucy." "Henry," she exclaimed, "we shall have to take him home with us." "But we don't even know his name," said Mr. Brown. "We'll call him Paddington," said Mrs. Brown, "because that's where we've found him." Mrs. Brown went off to look for Judy, and Mr. Brown took Paddington into the buffet for something to eat. He left Paddington sitting at a corner table near the window. He soon returned carrying 2 steaming cups of tea and a large plate piled high with sticky cakes. One very lucky bear. After his long journey, Paddington felt so hungry and thirsty he didn't know which to do first, drink or eat. "I think I'll try both at the same time, if you don't mind, Mr. Brown," he announced. And without waiting for a reply, he climbed onto the table. Mr. Brown stared out of the window, pretending he had tea with a bear at Paddington Station just every day of his life. That's pretty good. When Mrs. Brown came to the buffet with Judy, she threw up her hands in horror. "Henry, what are you doing to that poor bear? He's covered all over with jam and cream." At the sound of Mrs. Brown's voice, Paddington jumped so much He stepped on a patch of strawberry jam and he fell over backwards into a saucer of tea. I think we'd better go before anything else happens, said Mr. Brown, and he quickly led the way out of the buffet. Judy took Paddington's paw and squeezed it. Come along, she said. We'll take you home in a taxi, and then you can have a nice hot bath and meet my brother Jonathan. There they go, all heading home from the station. Paddington had never been in a taxi before, and he found it very exciting. He stood on a little tip-up seat behind the driver so that he could wave to all the people in the street. Soon they pulled up outside a large house with a green front door. When they were indoors, Judy took Paddington up to his room to unpack. I haven't got very much, said Paddington. Only some marmalade and my scrapbook and a sort of South African penny. He held up a photograph, and this is my Aunt Lucy. She had it taken just before she went into the home for retired bears. So he doesn't have much in his little suitcase. Just a few mementos from home. Next, Judy showed Paddington to the bathroom, and as soon as he was on his own, he turned on the taps and climbed onto a stool in order to look out of the window. Then he tried writing his name on the steamy glass with his paw, but it took him rather a long time, and when he looked round, he found to his surprise that the bath was full of water and was running over the edge. Oh dear, I think the Browns are about to have a flood. He closed his eyes and, holding his nose with one paw, he jumped in. The water was hot, soapy, and very deep, and to his horror he found he couldn't get out. He couldn't even see to turn the taps off. I think this bear is in a little bit of trouble. Paddington tried calling out, "Help!" at first in a quiet voice, so as not to disturb anyone, and then much louder, "Help! Help!" and still nobody came. And then he had an idea. He took off his hat and he began using it to bail out the water. Downstairs, Judy was telling her brother all about Paddington. Suddenly, she felt a plop, and looking up, she saw a dark wet patch on the ceiling. "Paddington!" she cried. "He's in trouble! Quick!" And together they raced out of the room. Jonathan and Judy leant over the side of the bath and lifted out a dripping, very frightened Paddington onto the floor. "What a mess!" said Jonathan. "We'd better wipe it all up pretty quick." "Oh, Paddington," said Judy, "what a good job we found you in time. You might have drowned." Paddington sat up. "What a good job! I had my hat," he said. There, look at that. Some time later, a beautifully clean Paddington came downstairs, settling himself down in a small armchair by the fire, and he put up his paws behind his head and stretched out his toes. It was nice being a bear, especially a bear called Paddington. He had a feeling that life with the Browns was going to be fun. And there's there. drying out by the fire, warming up his toes. So Paddington Bear is a very old story. There's even a movie that's been made, Paddington Bear, and I believe there's even Paddington Bear 2, which I haven't seen yet. So one of my childhood stories to you. That's today. And we'll see you again on another story time.
That was a great story we chose today, and if you want to hear it again, just press the replay button. And don't forget to meet me here next time for another classic adventure into the land of stories. Press subscribe and the bell icon for notifications so you can see new stories when they get posted, and see my channel with its playlist of stories for you to choose from in Marnie's library. Press the thumbs up or the like button if you liked the story today, and comment if you want to, and I will reply when I can, and we'll talk about our story.